Aloha, everybody, and welcome to the Paradise Property Podcast. I'm Scott Startsman with the High Estates team and List Sotheby's International Realty. Today, we're going to be talking about the cost of living in Hawaii. This is our Moving to Hawaii segment for this podcast. And I'm going to be bringing in my good buddy, Guy LaGuire here from the Big Island, or Papa Guy, I should say. Welcome, Papa Guy.
Aloha, Scott. Good to see you again. Good to be here.
You as well.
Glad to be on the Paradise Podcast.
Yeah, it's good to have you. We haven't done it for a while, so now we're back into it.
Yeah, between our film careers and everything else, but
and my construction project. So for me,
oh god,
I just finished the latest project, and so I'm actually going to release a video on before, the during, and the after, so people can kind of see the prospect.
Good for you.
I'm coming to you from a new studio location, a new location here at this latest project. Just finished it. In fact, closed the building permits today, as a matter of fact. So
congratulations. That's a big one.
Amen. Thank you. Phase 1 of 2 phases for this project. So I'm going to tear down the garage, rebuild the garage, put an ADU above it, and a ton of work went into it. It's probably 7 months worth of work. And my entire Christmas period, I had to drop 5. The last portion was landscaping and gravel, basically getting the property ready. And I had to drop 5 cubic yards of gravel over it at another property because it's level. This driveway here is steep and it goes up. So we only would have been able to drop the gravel basically at the street edge, which never would have worked. So I literally spent Christmas holidays between Christmas and New Year's hand shoveling buckets of gravel into buckets, putting them into a truck, driving them over, and putting it where I needed to. And it probably took, 6 straight days of 8 hours at a time. And
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's hard labor. I mean, and I think it's a good thing to experience that and know. I back in the day, I built a rock wall in front of my house, and about a day after I started, I said, why did I do this? But I finished it. But hey, it's good that labor stuff is good. Real quick, just for those that might be laymen and don't understand the term, you mentioned ADU. Just tell folks what that is.
Accessory dwelling unit. So it's a separate unit, full kitchen and everything that I would build above the garage.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, and it referred to often as, quote, ohanas or extra apartments or whatever in the state of Hawaii. Yeah.
So if we technically want to get down on it, ohana is a different component. The accessory dwelling unit is going to have a limited size restriction to it, and becomes other components to it. So you can't have it more than, I think it's 850 square feet here on Oahu, and then you have to provide parking, et cetera, and you have a minimum rental period of 6 months. Well, an ohana is technically for family. It can be bigger. However, you can't rent it out. It's supposed to be technically for family. So there is a distinction between the two here in Hawaii.
No question. But you hear the terms used interchangeably. Oh, I live in an ohana. And yet what they really mean is they live in an ADU, an additional dwelling unit. It's not just for family, but anyways, and it's a necessity here.
It is.
I mean, it provides housing for people, which we have a little bit of a shortage of.
We'll talk about. So how things been for you? Happy New Year, by the way.
Yeah, Happy New Year. I mean, we're almost we're in the third month of the first quarter already, right? So we're 7 days into March almost, and things are going good. Got an escrow going. I got another listing coming up, so that's nice. Had a good holiday season. Continue to swim, and things are good on the Big Island.
Yeah, open ocean swim. You go.
No, that's not me.
You don't do that. You're doing the pool.
Yeah, I still have to do the pool until I may do 10, 15 yards offshore ocean sometime this year. I may break into that, but for me, it's an exercise thing, and it's my dopamine. I mean, it just makes such a difference in a day to get in that water early.
There is never so I always describe this, and I released the video on the 4 reasons I love living in Hawaii, and I go to Makapu and I do body surfing. And the reality is whenever I get in the ocean in the morning, the rest of my day doesn't matter. Like nothing train wrecks me from the rest of the day. It's the perfect day.
Exactly. Well, whatever happens, right? It's kind of like, yeah, okay, well, I can deal with that.
Yep.
Yeah, it's there is such a healing quality to it, and we've talked about that before. Yeah.
So anything been going on the Big Island lately?
Well, yeah, since about 2 days before Christmas, the volcano decided to erupt. We haven't had any activity really in a couple of years. I mean, it was 2 years ago, December, when the top of Mauna Loa erupted for the first time in 40 years. But even from that, it lasted about 7 to 10 days, somewhere in there, and then it was over. Well, now we must be on more than a dozen iterations of the Kilauea caldera, the main caldera inside of the national park, erupting and stopping, erupting and stopping. So that's been, over the last few months, quite the spectacle. Yeah.
Yeah,
this you got a picture in there.
Yeah, this picture here actually I grabbed. I actually saw on the internet where they have had the fountains that have been going on, and that's a picture. If you look in the foreground, and then let me get rid of us out of here. You notice all the people in the foreground, right?
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is they've said some of these fountains have been between 150 and 600 feet. Now, for perspective, 600 feet, a condo high rise in Honolulu is 400 feet. That's our max, right? And that's basically like a 40-story condo. Imagine 600 feet. That's almost 1.5 times of what some of these condo buildings are here. Fascinating to see that. I mean, it's an amazing spectacle. If you get a chance to go and see it, it's absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah, and I made while we were kind of doing a little chat before our show, I made the comment that once you've been to a luau, you don't need to go to another one. Yeah, I mean, it was a joke. Luau's are fun. Don't get me wrong. It gives such a feeling of being in Hawaii. But adding to that, if you've seen the volcano national park and you've seen the crater and you've been able to go in the lava tube and the various things you can do at the national park, it's an amazing sight to see. But once you've seen it not active, you don't need to go back there all the time to see it not active. But if it becomes active, you are talking about an opportunity to see something you just won't see in your lifetime. And people that live here, they make their way up there at night or early morning to catch that shot that you just showed, which is phenomenal. And it never gets old.
Nope. It's creation. I mean, think about it. It's creation. You're creating new Earth.
You're creating Earth. Yeah.
I used to have that lot in Volcano that I was going to develop that was on the golf course, and it looked straight out. And you could see it was during when the plume was going, and you could see it. I remember. It was the most eerie thing. And when you would go up there with no moon and go into the park at nighttime, it would give you chicken skin, right? And part of that's a cultural component, but man, it is nothing you've ever experienced before. It's incredible.
And during that 2018 eruption, I have a picture, or it was posted on Facebook, I think, of 2 guys teeing off on one of the par 3s at the Volcano golf course. And behind him was this, I mean, probably just an 80-story condo high plume of smoke, you know, and they're teeing off, and people are probably thinking, you should run. And they're like, nah, after I make my par, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I think my lot was a mile or 2. It might have been 2 miles as the crow flies to the crater. It was really interesting.
Yeah, I still have, and what's done is done, but boy, I would love to have a place, or I actually have to go over there and spend some time at Volcano, maybe take a 2-nighter or something. And not necessarily because it's erupting now, but that whole area it's just a different aspect of the Big Island. So that's been the main topic of conversation among a lot of people after, from just before Christmas till now. And also the fact that I've never seen it do this in the 37 years I've lived here, that it stops and starts. It's really unusual.
Yep.
I've heard people say, "Oh yeah, we got there and we saw it and it was amazing." And 20 minutes after we left, it stopped. And other people go, "Yeah, we rushed over there and 20 minutes before we got there, it stopped." So there's a little bit of hit and miss.
Yeah. Well, you've been sending vlog this way, so hurry up and take it back because it's been nasty over here.
Yeah, we've had a few nasty days here until we got some wind.
Yeah. Well, let's get moving on. Ready to get into the show portion?
Market meteorologist, the latest news affecting real estate and the economy in the state. Now, we're kind of alone out here in the Pacific. Sometimes Scott and I will reference the fact that we feel like we're our own country, but we obviously are the 50th state. We'll no longer be able to say that after Canada becomes a country. But when we talk about the economy, we understand that we are still connected to the contiguous United States in terms of us as a state. We are the 50th state, but also that there are other places in the United States that are, seeing some of the effects that we're going to be talking about, about Hawaii.
Yep. So we got our first one here. You want to introduce this?
Sure. Hawaii condo owners could benefit from state plan to prop up the insurance market. We're not the only state to have do this, because obviously California have had some major wildfires, other natural disasters across the states. But I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, so it's actually interesting timing, because this morning I actually went to East Oahu Regional for realtors, and Sotheby was there with a condo update for the condo side. And so condominiums have been having issues with the master policy insurance and the hurricane portion of the insurance going up significantly. In fact, the average increase in cost for condo master policies with the hurricane included and whatnot for the state has been between 300% and 500% increase over the last, say, 2 years. And so obviously that's a problem. You either have assessments, significant maintenance fee increases. Association boards were not fully necessarily funding for, or I should say, weren't fully having full coverage on the building. So in doing so, it impacts financing, right? So it became a problem. The lawmakers are moving forward with bills this session to create an insurance pool of last resort for Hawaii homeowners. So it's number one on the radar for the state legislature. The other component with this is there's a state task force trying to solve the issue, probably going to have some kind of fund to be able to kind of create a floor for the insurance portion. But when I met with Sotheby, when she presented today, she actually said, okay, the reinsurance market has kicked in. And because they've had to raise these premiums, they need a certain amount of funding to keep AAA rating. And now they've gotten close to that. So actual condo insurance rates had come down this past year about 15 to 20%. And next year, as long as we don't have more catastrophes, she anticipates them to come down another 15 to 20%. So we are on a high side. It's gone up significantly. It's something to be aware of and understand. But the state is moving to try to create solutions to help give some relief to this. There's some components in the financing side for loans for capital improvements, and there's also an insurance component. And then the reinsurance market component seems to be stabilizing at this moment. So signs of life. By no means is it, are we at the end of this thing? But at least it's starting to look like we're getting to a portion of understanding resolution on this.
Which is, again, it's a good thing. I think people have to understand. You think, insurance is just a boring topic, whatever. But whether you're renting or you own, insurance affects you, because if you're renting and your goes up for, your landlord, well, that's probably going to be passed to some extent along to you. So it's a topic that affects everybody. And you also see, as we have with other problems or issues across the states, as there are natural disasters, whether it be wildfires or hurricanes or lots of rain that brings flooding to certain areas, that it affects people nationally, because insurance companies, essentially, most of them are larger corporations, and something happens somewhere else, it may well affect us here.
Yep. Yeah. And the key component that I took out of some, and I've said this all along, the more proactive you can be as a board, an association, the better off you're going to be on an insurance premium standpoint. So if you're putting duct tape and chewing gum on issues such as, let's say, your plumbing, you keep doing duct tape and chewing gum rather than replacing the plumbing pipes and whatnot. Well, okay, you're going to have water intrusion issues. You're going to be tapping that master policy consistently, and the insurance company is either going to cancel you, they're going to raise your premium significantly because you become a high risk property, or they're going to significantly raise the deductible. And I've saw one building, the experience with one building was they went from a $250,000 a year premium to a $1.4 million premium because they weren't doing the necessary fixes and repairs, and their deductible went from $25,000 to $100,000. And at some point you have to look at that and go, it's cheaper to fix the plumbing pipes, replace them with new, and then your insurance premium goes down. Well, it's taken this extreme effect to kind of start, to smack us in the face in a sense. And that's not the only reason for this. But anyway, that's where we're at.
Well, and I think it's a good
is going to be the important portion going forward from this, and we will have some settling in the insurance.
Which, again, that's good news. The settling, and obviously, some supplemental, I don't know, stopgap funds, if you will, whatever that the state is talking about, for lack of a different term. But if you own your own individual home, and you're in an area that the house either needs to be power washed or painted a couple times a year, then power wash it and paint it, because it's a lot less expensive than letting the house go to, crap before that. And that's kind of a synopsis, or if you will, of the problem with insurance. Yeah. So,
yep. I just had an escrow. I got last year's budget. The insurance was $6,500 a month for the association. This new year, the insurance per month was $35,000. So it went from $6,500 to $35,000 a month.
And how do you remember what the breakdown was per owner? I mean, how many units were in that particular?
No,
facility?
But the maintenance fee went from $800 a month to $1,500 a month.
Well, that gives you a good idea. So that means everybody got an increase of $700.
Yeah. And not to go down a rabbit hole, there's a whole reason. Part of it, that's an extreme conversation, and there was some mistakes on the insurance side, and it's going to come down. But
yeah. Okay. Well, that's one thing, obviously, that is forefront, especially with, the natural disasters, the hurricanes in Florida, the wildfires in California, floods in the, Mississippi Delta, which, they seem to happen every 3 years. So anyways, well, I'll say this. I don't know if I'm sure you remember 7 years ago, they came out on draw all maps in Hawaii. And, I want to say a large part of it was a joke. I'm looking, what you want to do is you want to put money in your pocket for the next time a hurricane hits Florida, or the Mississippi Delta floods, because some of the stuff they came up with was just so ridiculous. For properties here on let me tell you about floods on the Big Island. There's a lot of mountains out here, so most of the floods, it's not like you see people on boats going to somebody's house and getting them. That's not what happens here. Our floods tend to, make debris wash and that kind of thing. And there are a few properties that are in areas that, if it rains too much, they can get some rising waters. But that goes back to the situation, not to beat a dead horse, but that if it was by the insurance industry to simply root out and let's see where else we can get from. And people are more cognizant of that as the problem such at the forefront now. It's like, yeah, it doesn't happen here, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, let's move on to the next one. So good news, mortgage rates hit a 4-month low. They were over 7% to start the beginning of the year. They've now dropped to their lowest level since December, which they're actually about 6.75%. So good news in that capacity. That's obviously helps create affordability. Every little bit helps, and we'll see where interest rates go based on the economy and what it's performing. Any thoughts on your end?
Well, I think I'll play a little bit of the devil's advocate here, but it's part of the puzzle. Obviously, whenever we see the interest rates coming down, that's a good thing. I think we still have some high prices that have also the market has softened a little bit. Part of that being that there's probably some homes out there that may be slightly overpriced. People still trying to get more money than they're worth. We had a huge rush during COVID, shortly after COVID decided, and when you have good property come on the market, though, they still move relatively quickly, taking good care of them and that price them fairly. So no question, any lowering in interest rates at any given time is going to open the market to someone.
Yep. Every time last year, which there were 3 times that rates dropped, we saw a significant increase in the number of sales and prices increased. So there's pent-up demand waiting for rates to drop. So to me, the moral of the story is be careful. As rates continue to drop, yes, that creates affordability for yourself, but it creates it for everyone else. So don't be the last guy in.
And it's a great point. We were talking a little bit beforehand, before we started the show, about people who seem to be looking and when's the time? My question is, when are you going to start enjoying Hawaii? Now, or because who knows, up or down, but the trend's probably going to be down. You can always refinance. But if you see a property you like and you go, oh, it's a quarter point, and you can afford it, and you're going to, pee and moan about a 0.25% or whatever, you're going to be waiting, So, there's a time, to be ready to pull the trigger. And
yeah, there's always excuses not to buy, right?
Yeah.
The best time to buy a home. Remember when that is?
Yeah. When you want to, when you can, the best time to buy a home is now.
Yesterday, right?
Yeah.
The best time to buy was yesterday. When's the worst time to buy? Tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's more expensive. You always buy when you have the money. That's my philosophy. I've run numbers a million times on break analysis and breakdown, and it every time I have the chance to get in, I get it. So.
Yeah, and we've talked about this. I'll say it again. Hawaii is a lifestyle. You're buying into a lifestyle, and a little bit here and a little bit there. And again, I'm talking if you can afford that. It's better to pull the trigger and become a part of the lifestyle than I'll sit back and see what happens. Yeah.
Yep. Well, let's move on to the next one.
Okay.
You want to
I'll read this
introduce us?
out. Sure. Honolulu City Council looks at ADUs to bolster housing supply. And in small print, increasing housing supply is the target of a bill that just passed its third reading in the Honolulu City Council. It extends accessory dwelling unit fee waivers set to expire. Extends it. So
Yeah, so let me give a quick. So we described this before. ADUs, accessory dwelling units, a separate unit on the property. It has some restrictions in the sense that you're basically talking about a separate dwelling max up to, I think it's 850 square feet, and you have to provide parking, but it's on the property, full kitchen, the whole 9 yards, that you can build, obviously, to help supplement income, supplement the mortgage, etc. The city council has said, hey, this is one of their main solutions for providing the supply that we need to offset the demand. We're short on housing by roughly 30,000 homes. Now, great, all fine and dandy, but I have an issue with this. I think it's terrible as being a main solution. It's a one-off solution. There are roughly 300. Let me pull those up because I ran some numbers on this. There are roughly 375,000 units, homes, or condos on Oahu. 376,000 is the number that I got. We need 30,000 to help satisfy the housing shortage here on Oahu. Okay, well, Oahu, 65% of Oahu's units are townhouse or condo high rise. So you're talking 130,000 homes roughly. Well, we need 30,000 ADUs. That's 23% of the homes. And it's a one-off solution. So, and how long does this process take? It takes a year to get a permit. Then you got construction. The likelihood that one-off people are going to solve this problem, or at least put a significant dent in it, is not very likely. You're better off going into your density. And the other problem I have is add 30,000 homes to 130,000 already in existing neighborhoods where you're not doing urban sprawl at that point. Imagine what your subdivisions look like. It's cars piled out onto the street, and how does the infrastructure handle it? So I look at this and I go, great. We obviously need solutions. I don't think it's the right solution. I think you need to go urban density, high rise, infill, urban infill, keep the neighborhoods what they are. I bought a home because I want a yard and I want distance from my neighbors. I don't want my neighbors piling up on top of me. I want my friends to be able to come over and park in front of my house and be able to come over for dinner or to visit. I don't want to be busting at the seams and driving down the road and I have to stop waiting for the car coming the other way because there's 8 million cars on my street right now. To me, it's much cheaper to go build vertical and put 600 to 1,000 units in a condo rather than build one ADU, which I'm doing. I'm providing the supply, right? I'm doing my contribution, but I make sure I keep things on my property. But it's much more efficient to build a 600 unit condo than it is to do one ADU as a one-off shoot.
Yeah, and I think in your situation, you're doing an ADU for the reason people usually do them, and that's to supplement income, have somebody else rent there, whatever. But again, the size of ADUs are also they're not the same size as a house, and to compare our island, the Big Island. I'm sorry. The actual name of our island is Hawaii. We call it the Big Island, but it has the same name as the state. We commonly refer to it as the Big Island. We have a ton of space. And when people get here and they drive and they look at all these open spaces and lava fields and all this, like, wow. But there's only certain areas that are residential. And those areas, they have to expand out as well. The place where I live, Waialae Village, is a good example. It's a great community. I've lived there most of the time that I've lived on the Big Island. We have a golf course. We have a great community pool. But we also, in this area, start to see a lot more cars parked on the street. It used to be that, you could park your cars in your garage and maybe one in the driveway, but now, you park there's a lot of parking on the street. So it's affected our community as well. But on the other hand, our community is looking to be one of the most expanded communities over the next number of years. And it has been over the last several years because it has the infrastructure. It's already started to expand our area with more homes is a logical thing because the infrastructure is here. So we have the same issues, even though you see all this open space here that when you drive on Oahu, you don't see as much open space. It's the same thing. Not everything is designated as residential.
Yep. I mean, I don't know. It's an interesting, like, trust me, I don't have an issue with allowing ADUs, right? I'm doing it. But I don't see that as the solution. A one-off solution doesn't make sense to me. You've got to get 23% of your housing population to agree to go down this path. And then how long does it take from planning, design to permitting, construction, and finish? You're talking several years. And that's not, to me, that's not the end all be all. So glad to see it. This is obviously affordable housing, and more housing is obviously a priority for the state. And, we're going to see more and more different components that come through, and I'm happy to see it. But keep the country. And to me, the way you keep the country is you go urban infill, and that protects your country components, which are, to me, of the utmost importance.
It was part of the reason that Oahu went vertical, was because of lack of space. A lot of their hotels do. I mean, on our island, the unspoken rule is nobody's building anything higher than the highest palm tree. So you don't have the high rises here. We have 5 resorts north of the airport on the west side, the Kona Airport, 5 major resorts. But those resorts, you have to go like 25 miles on the highway to pass these 5 resorts. They are spread out. And there's nobody out here building a 6th resort yet. So we do have the open space. We'd like to see, more of it in the areas of, say, Kona's one, Waimea's another, Waikoloa's another, that need to expand, because they already exist. And that's going to happen. Yep. But we face the same problem, a little bit different than the situation on Oahu.
Yep. Yeah, very different. We're urban, you're country.
Yeah, we are inaka, as the Japanese say, countryside.
Well, let's move on to the next one. So DPP will allow some developers to okay their own projects. And I love this one. To me, this is the pilot project because it says builders will not have to wait for DPP to review a project. Instead, the department will issue a permit based on an architect or an engineer's self-certification that their plans are satisfactory. I've been saying this for a while. To me, this is really good. Now, it's super limited. It's limited only to like 2 different kinds of projects. One is commercial interior renovation that is basically the property is owned by Department of Hawaiian Homeland. So that's going to be very small at this component. And the other is for an affordable housing component that's really small as well. I attribute it to a pilot project. We're going to test this out. The reality is, you've got an architect and an engineer. They've gone through significant schooling, tons of testing, and got a license. Why should we, here's the concept, what we're doing right now, why should that person puts the plans together, stamps them, sends it to DPP where it sits for a year for someone to review and go through it. And yes, they send back comments and there's corrections that need to be made. But you're telling me a year? You're telling me that person is any more qualified that's down at DPP approving those plans than the architect or the engineer? So
yeah, exactly.
Take things that I'm doing or a flipper, for example, where they buy a property and they got hard money loan at 12% interest. You're at $1 million loan. That's a lot of money per month. Their profits evaporate quickly. So they can't ill afford to sit in permitting for 10 to 12 months, right? So, okay, you get an architect or an engineer, do up plans, stamp it that we're taking responsibility for it. You take it down to the desk, they issue the permit. Yeah, you should know what you're doing and you're responsible for the project. You immediately start work, they start building. Inspector comes in there to inspect. Are you building what you're supposed to be building, and is it the code? And if not, you got to modify it. That to me sounds like a much more streamlined process and much.
No, I agree. And one of the articles, that you had sent me prior to our program today was about that. And I don't remember the woman's name that's in charge of the project, but um, she claimed, obviously, and this is an issue everywhere, staffing being one of their issues. But still, again, as a pilot project and as a direction to go, even if it's to a limited number of certain developments, hey, it's a start. And for the layman, Scott, I just real quick, the DPP.
Department of Planning and Permitting.
Yeah. Okay. And so again, for the layman, for those that don't understand all those intricate things, that it's an amazing amount of time, and for a developer who might just throw up their hands and say, I'd rather go someplace where I can build a project and get my permit, approved in a reasonable amount of time, understanding that it does need to be checked. It's definitely been a problem for years in this state.
So I've done real estate syndications. Syndications meaning I take investor money and I go and do a development project. I built ground up construction, condominium CPRs. I've created condos and associations. They're basically single family homes that you condominiumize and sell off. I've done multiple of those. I won't do them now because my fear is when I take the investor money, I am stuck at the mercy of Department of Planning and Permitting in a permitting abyss of I have no idea how long the permit until I get the permits. And I carry the burden and the weight on my shoulders of people giving me money, and I have to give them a return. What I say, I have to perform to, right? Or I lose all credibility and I never get an investor and I lose friends and things like that. And so I've gone away from that. But this is a step in the right direction. We're moving there, and it's good to see, and I'm happy to see it. In South Dakota, they're doing this. I've talked to a contractor in South Dakota. He's like, we do self-certification all the time. I've talked to architects here. I know Matt Gilbertson, MGA Architects. He had been a big proponent of this for a long time, saying self-certification should be there. I have a license. If I screw up, my license should be revoked at that point.
Yeah, and obviously when you're making something, a home or a condo or something, I mean, you've got to build, once you build something that, you self-certify and it sucks, you're done. You're going to lose your license. So, I mean, yeah, and obviously for you, like you said, working with investors, I mean, if one of your investors is Louis Loans and Sausages from the Bronx, you want to get them some action. You want to get them some action, right? I mean, sorry, it's a joke, but the point is that those investors are, they put their money up and they want some action, and they should get it, and the state should. Again, there's a lot of talk about the problem, and there are some things happening, but yeah, let's face it, it has to speed up.
Yeah. This is a great sign. I love seeing this. I think it's a step in the right direction. It appears to be a pilot project. Let's see if they can move it along into a bigger, wider scale component, especially renovations. Renovation, you're doing a renovation permit, right? Or you're doing a renovation project. You're not building all the way from the ground up. That should be an easy way to do self-certification.
Yeah, it's crazy. But one other thing I've heard recently or read in the papers, and I won't go into this in depth, but just as a a possibility is for the DHHL, the Department of Hawaiian Homelands. They're now talking about modular houses on some of these projects, which again, it may be the solution to move things along quicker.
Yep.
And people want housing. People need housing. In the interim, we are losing people from this state.
Yep.
People are moving away because the problem's not being solved quick enough.
Yeah. Well, DPP is a big component. That's deregulation at that point, right? Like, no, I don't want to say deregulation, but you're reducing the restrictions. You're reducing the paperwork and the layers of issues that you have to go through. You're thinning that out and you're making it easier. That's one step. Same thing has to happen on the condo high rise side, on the development side, on the mass scale component. You know, the funny thing is we didn't have a housing shortage back in the 60s and 70s, right? After we became a state in 1959, we didn't have an issue with housing supply. We were building 14,000 new units per year, single family homes and condos. Then when people realize, oh, the Waikiki condo with no parking makes 0 sense. Okay, we need to put some regulations in here. And they swung the pendulum the opposite direction to the point where we're adding 4,000 new units a year. And we're not even, that's where over 30 years, this housing shortage has come from, is too many regulations. Thin them out. We either got to add the supply in some kind of capacity, or you have to decrease the demand. Those are the only two ways you're really going to, help that solution out. Anyway.
Yep. All righty.
Ready to move on? We got trending tides.
Trending tides, the latest real estate market update, and I know this is your Kuleana. I just briefly, I will make this comment that I've talked to a few realtors that said, hey, the first quarter has been soft, that we're still in a soft market. And to some extent, I'll agree with that. I mean, the house that I listed recently, we put it in escrow in 2 days. We had, 4 different offers. And part of that is that it's in kind of a unique neighborhood. We did a really good job of cleaning the house up, power washing it, making it shine before we released it onto the market. But we kind of had a winner, before we even started. But, we polished that car up really nice before we put it on the lot for sale, so to speak. And that is important in a soft. There are unique areas, and I know it's the same on Oahu. It's the same here on the Big Island. But I look at other houses that are reducing prices. They sit there. Maybe they're not the best location. So they, a $700,000 or $800,000 house, and they lower their price by $15,000. I mean, seriously, that's a drop in the bucket. And anyways, so there is a softness. I think overall, if you look at the statistics, maybe still affected somewhat by interest rates and still prices that are higher. But if you've got a good product and you price it right, you can sell it here.
Yeah. So I didn't ask for you to have specific numbers. Numbers came out today, hot off the presses, right? Oahu's housing numbers came out, and I had felt the slowness. So our January numbers were really strong because that's basically 2 months prior worth of sales activity. We election year, you have the election coming, people kind of hold in place to figure out what's going on with the election, who's going to get elected. Then you have the holidays, and then you have January, February. And for some reason, I don't know why this is, we've always used to joke in the past, market slow till the Super Bowl. Then after the Super Bowl, it starts picking up through summer. And I don't know why the heck that is, but we didn't have that in the previous years. My January last year was busy. My January the previous year was busy. This year it was slow, and I felt it, and I felt it slow on my listings. I think I have eight or 9 listings right now. We're getting ready to bring 3 or 4 more on. So I feel the market based on my listings and based on my buyers. And so This past month, I felt it the last 2 months, and I was curious to see what this month's numbers were. Well, single family home sales and condos were both down. So we were soft on sales for single family homes and condos. However, price for single family homes was up 10%. Condos, however, was down 3.6%. So single family home price, 1.185 million on average, median, I should say, for Oahu. Half the sales above, half the sales below were 1.185 million. And the condo was 494,000 for this past month on the median. What I did feel it soft in the last 2 weeks. It's been much busier. I've felt buyers coming back into the market. So my question was like, okay, are we back to a normal market where we're used to the Super Bowl kicking in, and all of a sudden we get busy after the Super Bowl, and it appears to be heading that way? I mean, you got to think we just had an election. Now you got a new administration. There's some unpredictability coming on with the new administration, and markets like stability. So we'll see. But interest rates are coming down, and my listings are getting more showings now. We're getting more buyer activity. So we'll see where it goes from here. I do expect next month's numbers to be soft, but we've been able to negotiate on the buy side a little bit off on some of these listings, and we weren't competing. 25% of homes this past month sold for above asking, and 13.5% of condos sold above asking. So there's still strength.
Yeah, I think I think again, property specific, you have the market stats, which are always important, generally about what's going on. But and again, those are the numbers of the trending tides. And then you have, certain individual properties that, it's going to sell the day it hits the market, and some of those are extremely high priced, maybe for the 1%, whatever. And others are just your average home in a neighborhood, but maybe it has a exceptional location, or they have renovated, they've done something to make that property special.
Yeah. The dogs right now are the ones that are selling at the discount. Is what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
So, do you have any Big Island stats by any chance? I didn't email you and ask you to bring any. So,
I think in general, I'm less of a stats guy as I am of a what does it feel like to me. That does, I can get stats. What was it Henry Ford used to say when he was being questioned by Congress? He was like, I can press a button and I can have any information brought into me in 5 minutes or less to know all these things that you're asking me. I don't need to have them all in my head. And that's kind of the way I feel. I can go on and do a competitive market analysis and know about, stats on the east side of the island and the west side of the island, certain neighborhoods, because there's a drastic difference in climates, in lifestyles, just on the island itself. So for me, I go a little bit more by feel. Like I have a listing coming up in a neighborhood that you just don't see listings in, and I have a feeling it's going to sell really fast. We'll see. We are in the process of getting it ready to shine for the first showing, which I think is a good process. And the owners do not mind, even though they're absentee. They spend part of the year here. They don't mind that so much. So, yeah, I mean, all I would say is if you had to look at stats, there's a lot of people still that are, not necessarily hesitant to pull the trigger, but they can't pull the trigger because the interest rates are too high, and as well as the prices. But the trend is changing. You're definitely seeing the prices come down.
Okay, so I'll give a story, and I've talked about this off air. I'll talk about it on here. So it's funny. It's during my craziest transaction during COVID was $450,000 over asking, no J1, meaning no inspection period. Seller to stay for free at the home for 2 weeks after closing, and no appraisal clause. And we didn't win it. We lost it. And I call that herd mentality. herd mentality, like, oh, capital was cheap, interest rates were cheap, right? I got to get a home, running check in hand. I had one offer one time. I was competing with 45 other offers. Just stupid, right?
Wow.
No, so that's herd mentality. Everybody else is getting in. I got to get in, right? And I'm willing to waive everything. And now we're actually at the bottom. We're at the opposite. Nobody else is buying, so why should I? There's no sense of urgency, right? And so what's funny is when do you want to buy?
Yeah,
When
wait,
others
wait.
aren't.
Yeah, wait till you're competing with 45-hour offers,
Correct.
right? Yeah, I mean, how stupid is that? I'm sorry.
Well,
How unintelligent is that?
Yeah, well, conceptually, it doesn't make sense, right? But and to truly make the money and the wealth, then you want to get in when the market is soft. If you want to time the market, I don't believe in timing the market. All right, you get in when you have the money. But if you have the money now, and I had someone the other day going, I'm going to wait till see where prices are going, and I showed them. I go, this is where prices are going. This is the building. They already set the market. The market's been done. Where do you think value is? Yeah, but I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait and see. Yeah, you're going to wait to see the other person buy the property.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, and that's the thing. When you see what you want and you can afford at that time, that's the time to buy it. This is our house. This is the one you want. Yeah.
There are a ton of buyers on the sideline, and that's why I go back to every time rates dropped last year, we had a significant increase in sales, number of sales, and an increase in price. And so you wait till the shift. When are you going to realize the shift happened? When it's already happened, right?
Right.
So,
well, and I mean, buyers can be fickle. There's no question, especially, everybody seems to think that they know, yeah, if now's the right time or it's not the right time. Yeah, I'm going to wait. That's a smart thing to do. And I'd like to, frankly, have a transfer portal for buyers and put a few of mine into the transfer portal and send them to another university. But no, that's again, that's facetious. But, when people are ready, they're ready. But, realtors we're here to sell properties, and that doesn't mean that we're going to rush out and have you buy the first thing you see. We want you to get what you want. We're not, but we want you to understand that when you do see what you want, that you get it and you start enjoying the lifestyle.
Yeah. It's a big
later.
Commitment. That's what we're here for.
It is.
So let's move on to the next one. So I changed the topic of this. This was Coconut Joe. I changed it. Who you hire matters, because I feel like that message is a little better. These are the stories from the trenches of interesting things realtors do, and lenders, the good, the bad, and the inspiring, or the oops chronicles, or behind the blunders. So I must get probably 5 stories, maybe even 10 stories a week of things that I could use in here. I'm gonna leave it to one. I was talking to someone came up to me the other day, and they know my investing background. They understand the diversity of understanding of real estate that I have. And they said, hey, it's a residential realtor. Hey, I took a listing on a multifamily apartment complex property, and I put it on the market. And we sent e-blasts out to the other residential agents, and it's been really quiet. And I said, okay. And they said, oh, the market, I think the market's slow in this area. And I said, you think? And they said, well, I'm not totally sure. And I said, have you ever sold a multifamily apartment complex? And they said, no. And I said, okay. And they said, yeah, I wanted to pick your brain. How do we find the buyer for this? What else should I do? And I'm thinking, oh, okay, wait a second. They hired you. You should be able to figure this one out. But the reality was, I said, well, do you have a pool of multifamily investors that you are going to reach out to about it? Well, no. That's a good idea. And where do I get them? I'm like, well, you probably would have them if you had the experience in this type of property. And then I said, have you reached out to commercial or multifamily realtors on the commercial side? Because the commercial is different from the residential, and multifamily falls under commercial. And they're like, no, I haven't done that. I said, did you put the property in LoopNet. No, what is LoopNet? And I just started to do like this, and I was like, and I said, well, what have you done? Well, I put it in MLS and I put it in with pictures. I send an e-blast out to residential agents. Okay. And now we're twiddling our thumbs. First of all, you've sent it to the wrong audience. It should have gone to the commercial brokers who know how to handle. They're the ones with all the clients. Have you called the agents in the residential side that do multifamily personally and have investors? No, I haven't done that. That's a good idea. Where do I get that list? Well, you got to figure out the list. You shouldn't be taking this listing without having the strategy. You're now coming to me for the strategy for your listing. And so to me, the moral of the story in this, and I'm seeing this a lot right now because the market has been slower. I'm seeing agents taking outer island listings. I'm seeing agents taking listings in areas that they're not familiar with and they're not experts in. And I see this in particular. This is an extreme version. I'm seeing an agent taking a property listing of what they have zero experience of, and then they don't have the strategy for it. And I look at that and it scares me because you're gambling at that point with millions of dollars of somebody else's money, and it's not fair to that person. And if you aren't an expert in that area, for one, you shouldn't take the listing. But from the consumer standpoint, you have to understand this. You have to look out for yourself, and you should hire someone, interview multiple. How many deals have you done in this type of property? What's your area of expertise? What's your strategy? How many years of experience do you have in this area? For one, you don't hire the Maui agent to sell the Oahu property, right? You at least got to be on island. And the next portion is do you have experience in this area, in this type of property? Have you done a number of transactions? Can you create the strategy? Do you have the connections, and can you get it done?
Pretty simple. I mean, in theory, especially when you're talking about, the multifamily, multi-residential type property. Yeah. I mean, we have this great thing in this business called referrals. You get paid for doing nothing by picking up the phone and calling somebody else and saying, hey, this is not my Kuleana or area of expertise, as we say. And yep. I want to pass it on to you. Give me a 30% commission, whatever it might be. And, that's one route you can take, or you can say, I really want to do better in this area, but then you got to get your butt in gear and learn about it and figure out what to do and do it, yep. And that might be the harder thing to do. I mean, how many multi-residential things are you going to sell over your career? I know commercial realtors, they don't go on volume. It's not like they're selling 100 properties a year, Yeah. I mean, they're selling a very, very expensive property once every 5 or 10 years. Some of them, right? So depending on how large the property might be. So yeah.
Well, I think what people don't realize is commercial and residential agents are two worlds apart completely. So commercial brokers are numbers people. They're dealing with investors. We don't deal with them, right? We don't cross over.
No.
Very rarely. And they have LoopNet. They go on LoopNet. They pay for subscriptions there. They'll post their properties there. They're running demographics. I've taken all my CCIM courses. I've taken over 200 hours of commercial investment courses. And that's where I got into syndications and stuff. But I don't delve in that world because I'm residential. It's hard enough staying up on residential, much less trying to move into that world and network with all those people. You can't do it. It's a disservice to the client.
Yeah.
The minute I go into that world, I'm not the expert, right?
Well taken as far as your concern in that particular place. You're the agent and you have a seller, and are you doing right by them? You might be doing right by them to say, hey, it's like a doctor telling somebody, I need refer you to another doctor because they know what they're doing about this.
Yep. Yeah. So there, to me, there's a component of the agent side that you need to do the right thing for the consumer, but the consumer needs to understand I need to look out for myself, because there's enough people that don't.
Yeah.
That they want to take, I want the listing.
I know Guy, and he helped me buy my house, and I've lived here for 15 years, and now I bought a commercial property, or I want to buy a commercial property. So I'm going to go to Guy, and, because he did right by me. And I would say, hey, I'll go along for the ride,
talk
but
to this guy.
here's the guy. We'll take care of you together if you feel comfortable about that. But I want to bring somebody else in. I mean, that's
Correct.
the thing to do. So,
and I interview. I help by interviewing people. Like for me, I could talk to an agent within 2 to 3 minutes. I know whether or not you know what you're talking about, because I've been in the business so long, right? I have so much experience over 20 some years in so many different areas that I can talk to someone quickly for 2 to 3 minutes, ask a few questions based on their answer. I can tell immediately whether or not these people know their stuff. And if they don't, then I move on.
Yeah, and a lot realtors that they were before, which is, I mean, and that a lot of us, we make this repeat buy from you, and then when them as it's a huge part of any business, just like whether it's retail or anything, is repeat customers. But once you delve into the area of the unknown where you don't have a repeat customer, then, it's like I said, you have to really be honest as a realtor when they come to you and say, hey, I'm going to try this. And you go, hey, I was glad to help you buy your house, but I don't have the to admit that you don't have the expertise, or to refer them to somebody. They're going to, in the end, they're going to appreciate that. And if they want you along for the ride, you're probably going to get a referral fee anyway, or whatever. So it's a good point. Great point.
Yep. Let's move on to the next one. So this is your moving to Hawaii questions answered segment, Island Insights. I just released my cost of living in Hawaii guide for 2025. So all the numbers are updated.
Which was very thorough, by the way. Very thorough. I am moving to South Dakota.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm kidding.
Well, the reality is cost of living in Hawaii is always an important thing for people to understand who are moving here, and the people that are living here understand it already, because it impacts us on a daily basis. It is the most expensive place in the United States to live, and based on our index, and in doing so, you need to be aware of it. And so we've just released that guide. You can go to my website at hiestates.com. Let me actually even show this. So yeah, here we go.
And I'm going to tell everybody, go and read this. It's extremely thorough. And I mean, I was impressed. Scott sends me his stuff not to review or whatever, but I love to take a look at it. And rather than him explaining it all over again, go and see. So you tell him where to go, Scott. I mean, where to go for the site.
Yeah, I'll show you. I mean, this is hiestates.com right on the front page. This is where you land. If you come up here to the upper right to blog, and it comes up, I have a whole bunch of blog posts, tons. We write content all the time to help you as the consumer. But go under cost of living in Hawaii as the category. I think I did that. And the very first one, we've just released this as our cost of living in Hawaii guide for 2025. And there's a ton of content here. We also have a Moving to Hawaii newsletter you can sign up for if you want to have things delivered to you directly. But there's a lot of content here. And the reason I bring it up is this is the portion of our Moving to Hawaii questions answered. Since that just came out, we're gonna ask these. We're gonna answer your questions based on that. So there was an article that just came out winter 2024 Hawaii perspectives report, and it identified cost of living concerns as one of the highest things for Hawaii residents. And in doing so, Pacific Resource Partners has released the winter 2024 edition. And by the way, I'll put a ton of links down in the description below. You can access these articles. You can access various different things. The idea is to give you the content so you can best make the decisions for yourself and to make sure you're as informed as possible. It's a transfer of information, basically. But the winter 2024 edition of Hawaii Perspectives, a comprehensive survey capturing the voices of more than 900 residents across 4 counties.
And the main counties, yeah.
Yeah. And in doing so, we'll get to the other one. So we'll answer some questions now. What are the typical expenses for utilities, groceries, and transportation in Hawaii? So, Guy, you have any thoughts on this at this point?
Well, I can certainly give the Big Island perspective, the island of Hawaii, because, grocery costs are kind of, I want to say, universal to the state. It's expensive for groceries. You need to be creative in terms of what you do and how you spend and looking for sales or whatever, which, I remember my parents cutting out coupons when we were kids out of the newspaper to save, a few bucks on their trip to the grocery store. So for that, for the groceries part of it, I don't know that you're going to see a huge difference between island to island, but transportation is something else on the Big Island. We're very rural. I mean, our roads are exceptional to get from the west side of the island to the east side of the island, or vice versa, has gotten so much easier. They've built better roads, but you really need a car here. You're not going to get by taking the bus like Scott can explain that you can on Oahu and possibly even on Maui. There are some buses that move from east to west, basically transporting workers from the east side to the west side to work at the hotels, and then transporting them back to the other side. But if I was to tell you what the transportation here, the public transportation, it's Ubers and taxis. It's that simple. When you come here, if you don't rent a car, which a lot of people are doing less and less, and also they're renting a car for less, not their entire stay. Like if they're here for 7 days, they might rent a car for 2 or 3, and they're going to save on that expense. If you live here, you need a car. It's that simple. You have distances to travel and go. So there is a difference between this island and the other islands.
Yeah, for us, our transportation, we're dense and we're packed in. So Uber, taxi, that's easy. The bus system is great here on Oahu, so there's that component. From a utility standpoint, I'll add this in. So this is a part of that blog post. I break out everything from income to how much money you would need to buy the median priced home, to what taxes are, what property taxes are, what utility costs are. I break them down individually. We break down grocery costs. I actually go to the grocery stores. I take pictures, write down the info so we can put a grocery cost list so you can compare them. All these necessities, these things that you would have in your everyday life, we put this into this comprehensive guide. And so here we have this one component here. And so if you're on the median condo price, taxes and insurance roughly on average about $325 a month. Utilities run $525. I mean, I was living in a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house by myself. My electric bill was $180 to $220 a month. My water bill was $100 to $120. That includes sewer. Sewer is 75% of what our water bill comes, because they come together. But $100 to $120 a month. And then my gas bill for natural gas, it was super cheap. It was like $12. It was awesome. Loved it. Yeah. And I love cooking with gas, right? And then your internet's, roughly $60 a month. Groceries, like you said, they get a little more expensive because, for one, we're importing stuff. and it's perishable. So it costs to ship here, and then it expires quickly. So you got to be careful with that. The Big Island, I would say, actually is better in the sense that you guys have more access to farmers because you're more country component, whereas we have less access to that. Now, most of the shipping of goods comes through Oahu, then goes to the outer islands. So there's an extra layer of shipping for you guys on the outer islands. Like gas prices for cars, I've always noticed is more on the Big Island than it is here on Oahu. It's cheaper here for us.
Yeah. We also have a long way to go.
Yeah, you got further to travel. I don't travel that far. So yeah, I mean we can drive. I can drive to the North Shore in an hour, right? Whereas you know, if you're showing property on the east side, it's an hour. It could be an hour and a half just to go that side, right?
Well, it's about an hour now from Waikoloa to Hilo. Via Saddle Road or the expressway now. So that time has been trimmed, but to get in your car and drive 45 minutes to Kona, or get in your car and drive an hour to Hilo, or 45 minutes to North Kohala, or 30 minutes to Waimea, that's just the reality. Now, understand, those drives are pretty easy and they're beautiful. If you want to listen to a podcast or your favorite music or whatever, chat with friends, whatever, it's all relatively easy. You're not going 10 miles in 40 minutes, which I know sometimes happens on Oahu. So,
yep. So the main thing I would answer on this is, if you're in a luxury home, so I gave you the kind of condo, small house, affordable side. If you get into the luxury home, I mean, I've had clients with a gas bill of $300 a month because they got the tiki torches, they got the gas jacuzzi, and the heated pool, and then they're cooking. $300 plus a month just for gas. And then you have tropical landscaping and highly landscaped, and you're at $200+ a month on water. And then your electric bills. I had a client that had a 5,000 square foot home, old AC, pool, jacuzzi. They had a piano, so the property, the house needed to be constant AC to climatize the piano, right? And their electric bill was $1,700 a month. And so they put in new compressors, and they got 70 PV panels. Oh, and they had 2 electric vehicles. So they got 70 PV panels with batteries, and then they had the EV chargers and whatnot. And they reduced that bill down to $100 to $200 a month through photovoltaic. So that's your offset. But those are the extreme luxury side, right?
And they could afford it. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, they probably paying the $1,700 wasn't, we can do that, but still,
nobody likes wasting money.
no, exactly. And when they saw, and it's not just affordability, it's also practicality, and going, let's, they're probably very happy to have that bill instead of $1,700 a month. So
So I mean, the premise here is go to my website, right? The research is here for you so you can understand the cost differences from where you are to where it is here. I actually even looked up what's the kilowatt per hour on Big Island versus Oahu. It's 46.5 cents per kilowatt hour on the Big Island and 43 cents on Oahu. Now, those are some of the highest in the state by far, or in the country by far. But even Big Island is slightly more than Oahu, right? And then your offsets would be PV and whatnot. But that gives you a general breakdown. Go to my website. It's all there for you. And the idea is to make you more informed so you can make an informed decision, right?
Yep. Well done.
So the next component, what hidden costs should residents expect, like higher prices for imported goods and shipping fees? Do you want to start on your side, Guy?
Yeah. We're in the middle of the Pacific. You have to be creative with how you shop. We do have Costco's here. There are places where you are going to save money. We also have access on the Big Island to some very good farms, not huge industrial farms or commercial farms, but smaller family-owned farms where they grow some of the best lettuce, tomatoes, strawberries, corn. So farmers markets are quite popular here, and there are events on the Big Island. They're good social events, as well as being able to pick up things for less money. But yeah, I mean, shipping these, ship a car in, whatever, people find that if you buy a car from Oahu and ship it to the Big Island, it may be cheaper than just buying a car in the Big Island. So there's various things that affect these costs.
Yeah, I'd say utilities are one of the hidden costs that people don't realize when they move here. So our electric is significantly, or electric cost is significantly more than what it is on the mainland. Water's not too bad on Oahu. So, and I can't remember, because I started off on the Big Island, but I can't remember how much sewer, like city sewer, you guys have. Is it just Kona and Hilo maybe? Because here on Oahu, majority of the island is city sewer, and city sewer is 75-80% of our water bill. And so therefore that water costs your minimum, I think, $90 a month just from a bare basic minimum water charge. And so the utility costs for residents is one that's usually a hidden cost for people. Sometimes they're not aware of that, the high electricity costs in particular, and some of the other components that come with it. Grocery and dining, I would say, would be one, because like you said, shipping costs in to get perishable goods in, they expire quickly, so you got to get them here quickly. And in doing so, our costs are raised.
Yeah, there's some kind of Korean dish. I don't know the name of it, but they serve it with an egg in it or something. And now a restaurant is actually charging you extra to put an egg in it. So I mean whatever. But that's part of what happens. Now, utility wise, on the Big Island, there are a number of areas where people live off the grid. They have catchment water. They have generators, which obviously need to be run by fuel. But, there are people that make that choice. You can actually do that here. You can buy a acre or two of lava, basically. Some of those places are located in Lava Zone 1, which is the most dangerous, which is why you can get land for relatively cheap. It's also difficult to insure some of those places. But
no insurance.
There are options. If you want to use photovoltaic or go off the grid, you can do that in certain areas.
Yeah. So, I mean, one of the things, so I realized this, my first development project here, when I was actually not in a city sewer component, and we had to do septic, and I built the homes, and we did stolons, basically plugs. Let's just call it plugs for grass. And I was going to have to water 5 times a day. And I went, oh my God, my water bill is going to be like $1,000 a month. And I got it, and it was $30. And I went, what the heck is going on? And that's when I realized the sewer component on my water bill. And I looked at it, and I'm like, wow, we were watering 5 times a day. My water bill's only $30. Why is that? And I compared it to my other, and went, oh my God, the sewer. And so you guys are not, most of the Big Island is not on city sewer. So either dealing with cesspool or septic typically, which means you don't have that wastewater component. You're only paying for the actual water. And if you're in catchment, like in Puna or Volcano in particular,
right.
You're not even paying for water at that point.
Right. And however, when you get to the residential areas, it can be municipal water or county water, if you will, where the water a lot of places like Waikoloa Village has a private water system. Some of the hotels near here, they run on they drill wells. Thank you. Yeah. So water costs accordingly. There are some subdivisions kind of out in the middle of nowhere that have drilled wells and have very high price per 1,000 gallons of water. So it can vary. But we do have, since we don't have the quote sewer systems that Oahu does, except in Hilo and Kona, it's a cost we don't have to deal with.
Yeah, so Kohala Ranch on the Big Island would be an example of a place with a very high water bill. You have no sewer bill, but you got to work because it's private water at that point, correct?
It is private water, but what you do is you may have in a Colorado Ranch area, you may have 3 to 5 acres, so you got nice elbow room between your neighbors. What most people do, although you can see homes that were developed years ago that have huge lawns and all this stuff, nowadays people hardscape.
Yeah.
They have some plants, maybe they plant some fruit trees, and then the rest of it is lava rock, and some people use artificial grass, and some people, so, and it's all done to keep the price of water down. People do that in Arizona, right? I mean, it's like we don't have the water, so they don't necessarily have sprawling lawns that they ride their riding mowers on.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So most of the people with the because it's 3, 5, 10 acre parcels in Kohala Ranch, if I'm not mistaken, correct? And it might even be 50-acre parcels or something.
Yeah, you get up into the summit, you get some 11 and 12, a little bit more, but yeah, basically, yeah.
But because of the cost of water and private water, because it's Kohala Ranch water, if I'm not mistaken, is that what it is? Kohala Ranch water company.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
But they're not watering their 3 acres. They're watering a very small footprint of their property because the water is so expensive and it's such an arid location. You don't get a lot of rain in that area unless you're high up in the summit portion. Then you get
exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And that's what people do. They just, you landscape accordingly, and you can make your yard look extremely nice, and still have a buffer between you and your neighbor, because you have 3 to 5 acres. So,
yeah. So to get back to this, for me, one of the other hidden costs is association or HOA fees. They're much higher in Hawaii than they are on the mainland. And that's one thing people need to be aware of. Our HOA fees and association fees, I constantly get questions like, hey, I'm in Oregon and our HOA fees are like $100 a month. How come yours are so much higher? And that's one thing to be aware of. We talked about shipping costs, we talked about grocery and dining and eating out. We have options, but the grocery cost component trickles down to the dining and eating out. And then I also have outer island healthcare costs. And why I mention that is because specialists are here on Oahu. Your trauma centers are here on Oahu. So if you are on the outer islands and you need a specialist to see, you are most likely traveling to Oahu to see that specialist. And there's a cost component to that, time and cost.
No question. And it has improved here. I mean, any rural hospital, and again, I refer to the island of Hawaii, the Big Island, as we are very rural. I mean, besides Hilo on the east and Kona on the west, and 5 or 6 major resorts, everything else is a village. I mean, you driving down the road and suddenly you feel like you're back 100 years in time, and you see all these older buildings. I love it. I mean, I live here partly for that reason. I just love that feeling. But the rural hospital anywhere in the United States, usually the only way they can survive is to eventually tie up with larger hospitals out of the cities, so that they can either send people to the city, or an expert may, in their particular medical field, may spend a day or two coming from Oahu over to the Big Island a month to see their patients. So that's possible as well, and that's gotten better. But there are still situations where people who maybe are in an accident or have something more severe need to be medevaced to Oahu.
Oh yeah, I've had plenty of friends from the Big Island that have needed to stay a night over here because they're seeing some kind of specialist doctor. They're traveling over, spend the night, and go see the doctor, and then travel out the next day. But that is a component to be aware of, and so yeah.
Yeah, and it's a question people always ask about that. Well, how's the medical care here? And again, I say it's definitely improved, and there is now talk and plans of a hospital being built close to Costco in Kona. That's
Oh, wow.
probably 5 years down the road, but geographically kind of hard for me to explain. But the town of Kona on the west side, its hospital is probably 15 miles south of Kona. And basically, to get there, you have to travel on a 2-lane road, 1 lane each way. And so it's long overdue, but hopefully, we'll have a hospital inside of the town of Kona within, 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, for us, I mean, we have it all over here, and it's all within
Yeah.
close proximity. So
Yeah. I mean,
Oahu is where it's
Queens
at
Medical.
from a medical care. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Queens Medical Center is like a city. I mean, it's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again,
Very close.
yeah. All right.
So we'll go to the next one. How do living expenses differ between the Hawaiian Islands or various regions? So we touched a little bit on this. I mean, the healthcare component is one of the components, but any other thoughts from your side? I mean, for me, one of the things that people need to realize in my aspect, what I would say is everything gets shipped into Oahu first and then gets shipped to the outer islands. So from that standpoint, there's going to be a cost to that.
Yeah, and again, I can't necessarily put numbers on it, but it does affect. I mean, think about lumber having to come in here, for construction projects and whatnot that it can't be flown in here, so it's barged in here, like Scott said, to Oahu first, and then to the outer islands. There's a port on this side, on the west side, that brings a barge in, and there's a port on the Hilo side, on the east side. Again, cars, anything you can't put on an airplane, or is too big, or large quantities of food or whatever it might be. So there definitely is a cost component in that. Generally speaking, though, because we have a lot of land here, although not a lot of it is designated residential, houses are still less expensive on the Big Island than they are on Maui or Oahu. The thing about the Big Island is that gas is more expensive, and we do travel. We have distances to go, but I also want to say this. Part of the driving here is like people ask about, it's one of the common questions. Don't you ever get island fever, whatever? I mean, the Big Island is very rural. We can do a lot of road time on the Big Island, open road. You see wild goats, occasionally wild sheep, sometimes wild pigs. So we do have the component where gas is more expensive on the Big Island. Scott, back to you.
Well, I mean, you hit an important component there, which was I always say Oahu's the city and the outer islands are country, and the Big Island is that in that capacity. And in doing so, your housing is much more affordable there than it is here. I mean, our median price is $1.185 million this month. That's not cheap, and our condos are basically $500,000 for a median price. So from the housing standpoint, Oahu is much more expensive. I do feel like goods in general are slightly more affordable, 10%, maybe 15%, max, more affordable on Oahu. And we have more options because we are the city. And what you guys get that we don't get here is direct access to more farmers in the rural capacity, which allows you to go direct. Farmers markets are huge over there. Man, if I lived back over there, I would be going to farmers markets every weekend. I mean, it's just fresh. Yeah. It's right there. You are sourcing directly from the local farmer, and that.
Yeah, it's nice. And like I said, they're events. I mean, it's a nice event. And Waimea is one of the main towns, but you go to Kona, there's farmers markets there as well. Now, it has gotten a little more expensive because a lot of these farmers, it's better for them to sell a lot of product to grocery stores, which they do. So there is some of both. But no, it's definitely, man, we get some great produce on this island. So
Yeah.
eat
I
your
would say
vegetables.
our automobile gas prices, the same thing happens here.
Yeah,
It comes into Oahu first,
right.
then goes to the outer islands. And in doing so, like I've always bought in Waialae and whatnot whenever I'm over there. And it's probably 20 cents more expensive on the big island than it is here on Oahu.
And it's less expensive if you go to Costco. I try to get my gas. I try to get my gas when I'm in Kona around Costco. If I have to stop at a gas station up at this side, I'll put $20 in or $25, and because I'm not gonna. Because some of it's like $1 a gallon, and you go, it's no big deal. Well, no, let's say you got a 13-gallon tank. That's $13 if it's empty. Okay, but you go to Kona, it's $1 less per gallon. That's $13. Now, if you fill up, whatever, 100 times a year, now you're talking about $1,300, unless my math stinks, which it does. But anyways, that's a lot of money over the course of a year. That's a few trips to Oahu, to go down to Waikiki and visit some of the local restaurants and nightclubs.
Or to go to visit your doctor.
Oh, after I go to those nightclubs, you're damn right I have to visit my doctor. Kill two dead birds with one stone.
Yeah.
Anyways.
But that if you can understand that general premise, right? I mean, even from a delivery standpoint from Amazon, we have a distribution center here now. So from a distribution standpoint for getting goods through Amazon, Oahu's going to get them quicker than outer islands, right? Most of it comes in here and then goes out to the outer islands.
You have a distribution center out, right? And obviously they can't have everything that's available at one distribution center. But yeah, and Amazon's convenient as hell, but I got to tell you, I'm not inclined to. I don't do as much shopping nearly as I used to on Amazon, mainly because it's part of the time of my life. I mean, I look around and go, there's 20 things I can get rid of, and I go online and think there's 20 things I just don't need. I literally, I think it's one component of shopping. When I go into your Walmarts and your Targets, I look at people's carts and I think, I could save you several $100s just by telling you to put a bunch of that stuff back that you don't need that plastic container that you're going to put some clothes. Anyways, that's a different subject, but that is part of shopping here is what don't you need? I mean, I only have one swimsuit. I don't have 5 or I don't have 7. I mean, just because I see one I like on Amazon doesn't mean I'm going to buy it. So,
that brings up so I always call Hawaii the humble state. And the reason I say that is because, for one, it's expensive to live here, and you got to understand that. 2, we typically have very small homes and small land. And I mean, how many of the homes built in the 1960s, 70s, and maybe even into the 80s had very few single wall, but very few storage closets. I mean, those single wall construction homes in the 60s and 70s had one hallway closet. They had one pantry closet in the kitchen. You didn't have a whole lot because they had a carport as well. And in doing so, your rooms were 10 by 10 with
a small closet, 2 Aloha shirts, one for a funeral, one for a wedding, and a few T-shirts. I mean, literally, if you want to see a whole bunch of people in shorts and T-shirts and have no idea how much they make or don't make, come to Hawaii. I mean, you don't need a big wardrobe here. So,
well, and you don't feel like you have to keep up with the Joneses either. So there's not that social pressure of having to do that. But we live in very smaller spaces, and it teaches you to live with less, and you become significantly. I don't want to say used to it, but it's more you're happy and content with less, and you understand that. And
go jump in the ocean And
Correct.
instead of buying the $25 shirt on Amazon, and you'll feel like $1,000,000, and
Yeah.
you'll save $25. So
Yeah. At,
yeah.
at the same time, I ordered 4 things from Amazon like 3 days ago, so I'm constantly ordering from Amazon. I mean, I've been even in Home Depot, and I'm like, well, I can't find this thing. Where the heck is it? And then I get frustrated because they don't have exactly what I want. I'm like, the hell with it. I'm not going to go to Lowe's. I'm going to order it off of Amazon. So,
Yeah, and I admit I still do. But I just it's basically, do I really need a and if I need something, sure, I order it. And if Amazon's a better deal, I'll go with Amazon. I mean, it's not like I've completely removed myself from that, but it's convenient, especially in the middle of the Pacific. Let's face it. Yeah.
Yep. So to end that out, living expenses differ between the Hawaiian Islands and various regions on the island. There's a few components to understand there, but most is similar for the most part. So,
All right.
ready for the last part?
Oh, the extraordinary property of the day. I always look forward to this because I usually don't take a look at this slide. I wait till you just pop it up and show it.
Well, here we are. You want to pop it up?
Go ahead.
Okay, I'll do it. I'll show this portion here. So this is a home in beachside Kailua on the windward side of Oahu. It is on the market for sale for $25,000. I mean, excuse me, $25 million. Beachfront.
Your email just went bonkers.
Yeah. Sold.
For 25 million, the highest bidder.
Yeah, 25 million. So what's interesting, there's actually a home on the market on this stretch of beach, so to speak, listed at 50 million that's in escrow. There's a property in Kailua for 65 million in Kahala that's listed for 65 million that's in escrow. So those will be two record prices for sales for the island of Oahu coming up. This property here, I've been on this property many times. Stunning property, almost 60,000 square feet of land. It's actually 2 separate parcels. And so let me back up and give you a little bit perspective. Kailua, small beach community. We call it a boutique beach community, similar to your Southern California beach towns like Encinitas and Carlsbad, Del Mar, some of those similar in size, more boutique size. And then as you get closer to the ocean on Kalaheo, North and South Kalaheo, on the ocean side or Makai side of the road, as we call it, there you start to have some of your bigger parcels, your estate parcels, so to speak. They've old school properties that have not been subdivided up. This one, 2 parcels together, almost 60,000 square feet of land. That's an acre and a half almost, with 2 homes on it.
Beautiful.
And totally custom, super wide on your beach frontage there. As you can see here, you got the mokes out in the distance. You got the sunrise coming up in the mornings. And you can see the tennis court, 2 homes, beautiful setting. And this home here, I mean, I'm going to take us out of here. Completely custom, huge vaulting ceilings, a lot of exotic hardwoods. The flooring, by the way, was brought in from Europe, slab cut, broken up, and placed on the flooring as it was, as you can see there. The residence is, there's over 13,000 square feet of home, 10 bedrooms, 11 baths, 8 full baths, 3 half baths. This is the perspective from a different angle. You have the winding staircase. You bring in your metal, your woods, your stones. That's a look out to the ocean side where you have a good sized yard, and then naupaka hedge before you get to the ocean, before you get to the beach, I should say. This is the kitchen space with its own nook area. You got the nice vault coffered ceiling there with the hardwoods. I mean, look at this coral fireplace stone with the wood inlay on the rooftop or
On
the
the
ceiling
that's
area.
gorgeous.
Yeah, it's just a nice
Wow.
compliment. I know the architect that did this. The guy's he's actually moved to modern, and he does amazing architecture. Then you have all these outdoor pavilion areas. You got the pool table outdoors. Then the master bedroom. I love this. So you don't realize this in this picture when we were opening up this the home. I was helping Brandon. Brandon works with me. This is our listing at List Sotheby's. That's not a window in the front. That actually is open. It is a window, but it pocket slides in to the left into the wall, and it's completely
Nice.
open there. And then the right side pockets back. And then there's two more sections in the back side of the backside of the bedroom as well. So it's like completely open to the elements and to the wind and whatnot. So you really get that indoor outdoor feel. Amazing setup. I've never seen something like this. But look, this is one of just the outdoor kind of covered lanai settings right off one of the pools. Just stunning. Here's another setting. And this is on the interior. So winds come in from the ocean in Kailua. So partly what we do in some of the homes is build the pools on the opposite side, on the Mauka side of that front facing portion of the home. So you get the coverage from the breezes and you have a place that you can hang out when the winds get a little rough.
Nice.
But
That's nice.
Yeah, pool setting. This is a lookout to the ocean as well. From one of the front lanais, you can see the mokes out in the distance there in the upper right corner. Yeah. Just an amazing setting. And this is the yard setting before you get to the ocean. So you got distance, you got some separation from the ocean and the beach where there people will be, because in Hawaii, all beaches state-owned land, so people will be on it. But you have a really wide parcel, a lot of square footage. It's an amazing property that they put together and designed. And in doing so, it's yours for $25 million.
Gorgeous. I like the shot from the ocean, the very first shot that you had, because it shows kind of what the mountains look like on Oahu, where they're more jagged, more straight up. Because Oahu, compared to our island, the island of Hawaii, much smaller, and they have it shows those jagged peaks of the mountains. It's really one of the great characteristics of both Oahu and Kauai,
Yep.
is those, yeah.
Because they're older
Epic.
islands, right? Yep.
Yeah. Really nice.
Yeah. Stunning location, very private, lots of land. Yeah, it's a nice piece of property. So
Yeah.
let me move to the end portion. Scroll back through those. So we get to the point of closing thoughts. You want me to introduce this? You want to introduce this?
Sure. You go ahead and introduce it.
Okay. So we always do an inspirational quote, something that tickles our fancy. For me, I'm this one: keep your face always towards the sunshine and the shadows will fall behind you. I love this one because, for one, I always try to stay positive in what I'm doing. Anything I'm doing, I feel like I can accomplish it, but it's about positivity, but it's also about opportunity that's out in front of you. And the sunshine is all warmth and it's positive. So I keep those two in the front, and then let the shadows fall behind. That's yesterday, and that's bad experiences and things. Let them fall by the wayside. Keep your face moving forward and towards the sunshine and towards positivity and towards opportunities. That's the one for me today.
And don't forget your sunscreen when you do that. Keep your face towards the sunshine. I like especially that.
And for you?
Well, it's kind of along with what you just said. As I grow older, I find that getting up earlier greatly increases the quality of my day exponentially. For some reason, and I had a friend from Michigan I grew up with. We were initially stock boys at 7-Eleven and caddies together. He's been an early riser his whole life. For some reason, over the last 10 to 12 years, more often than not, I find myself up at 5:30 in the morning. And it's just, for me, to start the day and get things going. Because when you get things going, even with Scott's positive comment about, looking towards the sunshine, it just things are just better. Action really helps your well-being. I think whether it's a project or anything else, and getting started earlier, it is a good thing for me.
Yeah, it's funny. I like that because it's interesting. Two things. One, there's nothing better than watching the sunrise come up and that's shining on your face, right? It's a new day, a new opportunity, new direction. But at the same time, there's a peacefulness to when you get up early, especially pre-dawn. There's a quietness. There's a focus. I can get more done. I can get tuned in, and there's less distractions.
Absolutely. That quiet time is nice, and it's nice to see the start of the day. And it can be the same in the evening. So, enjoy your quiet time in the evening, but there's something about morning. Yeah, the start of a new day. So
I agree. Yep.
Yeah.
So for me, I'll tell you this. Maybe I should show everybody this is my beautiful shelf here. It's actually fake shelf. It's a door. So I made a pivoting door in my house here. But the other thing that I have is a cold plunge now. So I have a chiller and a cold plunge, and I have a platform, like full-blown professional components. So for me, getting up and getting in that in the mornings is it gets me going and refreshing. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's pretty cold.
But it's interesting, the energy, the calm energy that it gives me throughout the day,
and create. Yeah, there's I mean, we could come up with a list of different things that just to make your day better. But I mean, that's one thing about Hawaii is, and if you do that, you're going to enjoy even more what we have to offer in the state of Hawaii.
Yep, getting back in the water for me.
Yeah. All right.
Thanks, Guy.
Thank you, Scott. I appreciate it as always. Good job on the statistics and your articles and your blogging. I know that there's a lot of people out there that appreciate it. So maybe you want to put a plug in one more time for your highest states.
We'll do that. Here's the website. I have a ton of resources there. Go to the highest states, histates.com. You want new developments? They're all here. You go to areas of Oahu. I've done write-ups. I've broken down subdivisions. I've written them all out based on my experiences. And then on the blog side, you have just a ton of different categories. Moving to Hawaii, living in Hawaii, investing, you name it. There's a lot here. So feel free, check it out. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. You can always contact me. There's an easy component on our website on the About component. I think it says About. Maybe it's More. Click the More, click Contact Us, and you can fill that out from there and reach out. And happy to help, happy to answer questions.
And if you happen to be interested in the Big Island, you can reach me at, it's very simple, guylaguire@gmail.com. Easy to reach there. If you have any questions about the Big, happy to help you out.
Yeah, and subscribe to the Papa Guy podcast. You still got it going,
Papa
right?
Guy podcast. Yeah, it's still going. Yeah, I do a few with my grandkids now. It's more of a hobby, kind of fun thing for them, but they enjoy, because the video component is really part of podcasting now. I listen to my podcast, but most people, like we're doing today, we can watch on video if you want to. I consume almost all of my podcasts in my car. So I'm not watching anything. I'm just listening. But they enjoy that. So
cool.
All right.
Well, thanks for joining.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. Yeah, Happy New Year. And we'll be back in touch.
Okay. Talk to you soon.
Aloha, everybody.
Aloha.